What is up, everyone? It's Thomas with Real Broker here in St. Augustine, Florida, coming at you live every Wednesday at 8 p.m., going over the market stats, the news you need to know about, everything about buying, selling, or investing here in Northeastern Florida. And we're also doing a Q&A. So if you have any questions, whether you're watching it live or you're watching the replay, make sure you throw them in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer them here live. And if you're watching the replay, I'll come by and I will answer your comment the best of my ability in the comments. It's a lot easier to do it when I'm talking to the video camera here, but we'll figure it out. So, like we do every week, we're going to start out with the market stats. I want to pull up something real quick, though, just so I can show you what's going on in our area. And I think this is I put out a video about this earlier this week. But the really interesting thing with our market is that there is such a huge percentage of our market is new construction. And when, this is a huge number here, but this is also including so if someone has a listing in like Miami, they still put it on their MLS because they have a listing in Miami. There's a whole bunch of, this is not exactly the most correct number, but what I want to do is just take a look at like St. Johns County. And I want to show you the total amount of active listings in St. Johns County. So we have 3,234 active listings, right? And that's a good bit, right? But let's take a look at what the new construction is. So if we do new construction, so out of that 3,200, we have 800 new construction homes. Now that's listed on the MLS. Now every location probably has additional homes that are coming to the market, but it's still a good bit of our market is 25%, 800 out of 3,200. So about 25% of our market is new construction that's active, right? So those are homes that are actively for sale. So when we take a look, and this is the really interesting thing, is like we take a look at the past 6 months and closed sales. I think that's a really interesting statistic here in St. Johns County. So past 6 months across all residential property, we've had 3,771 closed sales, right? And that's from October 30th. Now, if we add new construction to there, 1,446. So let's just do that real quick. 1,446 by, was it 3,771? Was that it? 38% of our closings within the area are new construction. So I think that's something that's really telling for our market here. And I think my buddy's calling me, sorry. I think that's something that is really interesting because that is a huge percentage of our market that is controlled inventory, right? And that's something that we covered last week where builders in the Southeast, and we're talking about like all the nationwide builders, D.R. Horton, Lennar, Dream Finders, they've seen a slowdown, about a 25% slowdown in their closings in quarter one compared to what they had the previous year. Now, of course, you can throw a whole bunch of different things into that. Like, hey, we're coming off of like COVID years, which is like the peak of like anything anyone's ever seen in the housing market in terms of how many sales happened. So we came back down from there. So year over year, it should go down, but not 25%, right? That's where it makes it for them. Now they're like, okay, well, we don't want to get, too, what do they say, over our skis, right? They don't want to get too far ahead of themselves. They don't want to start building as many houses because they're like, hey, we're looking at the demand here and it's slowed down. So our housing starts are probably going to reflect the amount of demand that we have. So that means that they're going to stop building as many houses as they were before, which I think is a very interesting predicament here for St. Augustine because, as I just showed you, a quarter of our market is new construction and 38% of our closings are new construction closings. So what does that actually translate into? And I think for buyers and sellers, this is important because that's saying that like, okay, hey, we're going to limit the supply of new homes that we're bringing to the market. And they're doing that just to make sure that their bottom line stays okay, right? But in a way, if they're a quarter of our market, they're representing a huge portion of what our inventory is in the area. So could be a positive thing for sellers in the area because they're competing with these new construction builders and they offer the best incentives. Really hard to beat them in today's world. For buyers, it's not exactly the best thing because if we constrict the inventory, then we see what we saw over the past couple of years. Now, I do think we have a good bit of homes on the market and the demand isn't exactly where we want it to be, to where the inventory going down 10%, 15, 20%, that's not going to make a huge difference. But it will, at the end of the day, limit how many homes are available. So for buyers, it could potentially be a bad thing. Now, to top that all off, if we are, the majority of our area and the sales are happening in new construction, St. Johns County could just be like, hey, we're going to keep building St. Johns County, but we're going to look at other places in the southeast, and we're probably not going to build as much. So they could stay the same within St. Johns County or northeastern Florida, just depending on how good their sales are going. That's a 25% drop in the entire southeastern region for them. So it's probably going to be area specific on what they do. Anyway, any questions that we have about that, guys? I thought that was a pretty interesting stat. But we'll get on to the news story here. Let's go on to this one. And, I feel like every couple months they've got to interview Barbara Corcoran. And she's obviously a real estate industry leader, owns the Corcoran Group. Barbara Corcoran says now is a great time to get a good deal on real estate. Here's why. And essentially, she just goes into her own personal experiences where, hey, she put offers in several months ago, and now those people are calling her back and saying, hey, give me an offer, put it on the table. But she's saying essentially like, hey, no one knows what's going to happen, but everyone's hesitating. They're worried about everything in the economy, and buyers stall when they feel that way. But right now, I'm here to tell you that stall is not going to last very long. Maybe in a month or two, and here's also another caveat here, is that typically in the summer, it always gets busier, right? So she could be speaking in huge generalities here. In a month or two, things are going to start to get normal again, and everyone's going to be out in the market. So get yourself out there. If you have any cash, if you have any way to buy real estate right now, you've got your best selection, you've got your best prices, get out there now. So what she's saying is like, hey, all the hesitation, and this is the truth, right? Like all hesitation, like if people are hesitating, when, what's that Warren Buffett quote? It's like, be greedy when people are fearful and fearful when people are greedy. Maybe that's something to apply to the real estate market. Once again, it's all specific to the general location that you want to go to. Every real estate market's different. One thing to note, right, is you're looking at like the median sale price across the entire country. Now here in St. Johns County, it's up 1% year over year, right? Nothing crazy, nothing to write home about. But like if you go to like the Northeast, there's tons of places in the Northeast that they're still having double-digit appreciation, right? Because they have so much demand from such a large population there in the area and not enough houses. So when you're looking at the national landscape and they're saying like, oh, well, median home sales are still up across the nation, yes. And that's because the Northeast and like parts of, maybe like two places in California are carrying the rest of the country in terms of median sale price across the entire country. So very interesting statistics, guys. Any questions about it, let me know. But we'll go on to the next news story. I only have a couple. There wasn't too much going on here in St. Augustine this week, so I don't want to waste your time. I want to make it worth it for you. So I got 3 more news stories, so if you have any questions, throw them in the comments below. All right. Florida task force assigned to pick location of Black History Museum says their process should be respected. So I've covered this probably 3 or 4 times now. They seem to agree on St. Augustine being the best place for it, but then there's people who are in other parts of the state that disagree. And really what they're saying is like, hey, we're moving forward with St. Augustine, but someone is putting another bill up. So let's see here. New amendment to the bill filed by State Representative Bruce Anton could upend that plan, calling for 3 museums instead of 1. One in St. Augustine, one in Laka, and one in Eatonville, the oldest incorporated Black town in America on the outskirts of Orlando. Now, the member of the task force says their decision has already been made after going through a specific and very thoughtful process, which he thinks should be respected. And they've all agreed that St. Augustine and St. Johns County is going to be the place. And he's one of 9 people that were appointed to the task force. He said it took us 10 months to reach a consensus on St. Augustine. It had to go through specific criteria. They had 13 applicants. They narrowed it down to 3. And out of the 3, they went with St. Augustine. So it's still kind of looking that it's up in the air that this is going to come. And it's coming to the West Augustine section here. So I'm really hyped on it. I think it's going to be a good tourist boost for the area. But it's still looking like it's not 100% going to go through. And to me, it's like, I get what they're saying. The guy's like, hey, why don't we have it in Orlando and Eatonville? Because one, Orlando has like one of the largest, it's the largest tourism hub in the entire state of Florida. So they already have so many people going in there, so much money moving around. Why not add it there? That was his biggest argument, right? And Eatonville does have, it's the oldest incorporated black town in America, where St. Augustine is the oldest city, I guess, incorporated city, the oldest city in the United States. So it's a kind of a toss-up between two. And we also have our own tourist industry here as well. Is it as good as Orlando's? There's no way. We can't compete with those parks. But so that's a really interesting thing to think about. But I still think, nation's oldest city, that's where that should be. So either way, what do you guys think about that? On to the next news story. Make sure I don't have any comments here. Kevin R. Let's see, wait. Oh, what is all this? Where is my eCam? Oh, here we go. We got Kevin R here. Kevin R says, what is the sweet spot of the year for a buyer's market? So that question, it's not exactly, there's not one time of the year where it's a buyer's market, right? So it really depends on how many months of inventory we have, essentially saying like, hey, once we have over like 5 to 6 months of inventory, we're in a buyer's market, which means that buyers have more negotiation room in the table. When we're in a seller's market, it's the opposite way. So good example, 2021, 2022, seller's market 100%. We are currently in a buyer's market where your buyers have a little bit more say in the contract. They actually can negotiate a little bit, whereas in 2021, 2022, there's no negotiation. There was no homes on the market. Hey, you want the house? Well, it's this price. If you don't want it, this guy wants it. If he doesn't want it, this person wants it. It's like, that's how it was, right? It was a seller's market. We're not in that market anymore. It's 100% a buyer's market here. Of course, there are specific neighborhoods in certain areas that are still in a seller's market. So it just really depends on where you're talking about. But I'm going to answer your question in the longest way possible, Kevin. In general, the best time to buy a house throughout the year is going to be in October of the year. Now I'll show you here. Okay, so this is seasonality, right? So this is the historical pattern of our market and when we see pricing year over year, right? So it always resets at the beginning of January. We start to see things really pick up around springtime, summertime. June, July, August are going to be the highest price points, and then we're going down into October. So October is technically the best time to buy a home in our area, right? Because the median sale price is going to be at its lowest. You're going to go into the new year starting at a 0, and then it should go up from there, right? So that's the best way to answer that question. But it all just depends. What home are you looking for? What area are you going to be in? All really depends. Because that's the other thing too, is like, hey, if you see a house that, I was just talking to someone yesterday, they're looking to move from California. And they're like, hey, we can move now or we can move to the end of the year. And it's like, well, okay, well, I'm here regardless, so whatever you guys want to do. And at the end of the day, it's like, if they find the right house, they're going to want to move on it. And that's it, right? So if you can negotiate on the right house and move on it and get the best price on it right now versus in October, then right now is the best time to buy. But if you just want to wait and just statistically on average, October. So Kevin, I know that was a long answer to that question. Probably just such a salesperson answer. I'm sorry. I probably should have just told you the seasonality, what it was. Downtown St. Augustine. So he's asking about downtown St. Augustine. I would say right now is probably a great time to buy. Right now or October. I don't think anything's significantly going to change through summer. But downtown St. Augustine has a lot of listings on the market. So really depends on what you're looking for. Once again, like the best homes are still selling quickly, and that's how it'll probably always be, right? When people are really interested in the best homes that are move-in ready, that have some type of like selling feature, it's going to move quickly. But in terms of like the market for downtown St. Augustine, there's a ton of active listings on there right now. If you tell me more about price point, what you're looking for, it could happen. But there's also other things to consider about being in downtown St. Augustine. If you're living here in Florida, you probably know it's in a flood zone, so most of it is, at least. So you're going to have to pay for some type of flood insurance or self-insure if you're paying cash. But that's one of the things that also factor into like why there's so many homes in the market, why they sit a little bit longer in downtown. It's more expensive, right, in general. So either the prices have to come down or the insurance problem has to get fixed. And which one's more likely? Prices coming down. All right, Kevin, appreciate you, man. Any questions, just let me know. Throw them in the comments below. hope that answered your question. I know I gave you a long answer, and we have 10 other people that were just along for the ride that probably don't care at all about that. So let's go on to the next news story. Any questions, guys, about the market, what's going on here, throw them in the comment section below. Here every Wednesday at 8 p.m. going over this stuff. And also, if you want to join our Facebook group, I post a whole bunch of good stuff over there as well. Living in St. Augustine, Facebook logo looks like that. All right, so this is actually something I'm really excited about. I've told you guys before, like when me and Maya were looking to buy, we bought in 2023. We put in 4 or 5 offers and we lost every one of them. And I think we put in 6 offers. 4 of them were cash that we lost to. So we were going all over. It was very frustrating. And there was a point where I could have bought a duplex over in Hastings. And now I'm kicking myself. I wish I would have. But Hastings is more of a rural area, a little further away from downtown, the beach, all that kind of stuff. It's much more rural than the rest of the area. So I couldn't convince my wife on my best day to move out there, even if I thought it was a good investment. But I think it's awesome. And it's starting to change, which I think is a good thing. From 80% vacancy to 90% occupancy, Hastings Main Street sees rapid revitalization. A small farming town sees open signs at new businesses on Main Street in St. Johns County. Let's see. Their owner of Hastings Coffee Company opened up there. Hastings Nutrition Company opened up there. Let's see. Where's the other one? There's like 3 or 4 more that just, so there's like a pizza restaurant that just opened up there. Let's see, they don't have it all here. Oh yeah, the Cabbage Potato Bacon Festival they just had this past weekend as well. They had like a little lawnmower race, which was really funny. So either way, the downtown in Hastings is starting. I don't have a picture of the downtown. What the heck? But it's starting to turn a corner, which, I mean, it's not, it's you know, a typical rural main street. Like, it's not very big. It's, you know, you have 207 running through and it runs perpendicular to 207, but they just revitalized pretty much all the buildings there in that area. New businesses have opened up, and that's just happened with over the past couple of years. So I think it's pretty sweet to see that. And also, if you're looking like for affordability, but you still want to be pretty close to St. John's, like to St. Augustine and like the beaches, Hastings is a great option, really is. And the bang for your buck, and you know, you're off 207 for the most part in the majority of Hastings. So for you to get to 95, take you like 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes at the most. So really easy to get around places. So we got Kevin. Kevin, appreciate you, man. We got Metro Ice Hockey. I'm a big fan of the town of Spuds. Yeah, man. Yep, that's out there too. He's got some nostalgia running through him. I know, as he's sitting here listening to me talking to it. But told me a story about him and his friends out in Spuds. So either way, John, appreciate you being here, man. Kevin, you guys are awesome. Any questions, let me know. We got one more news story, guys. Like I said, not too much going on here in St. Augustine this week. It's been kind of calm. So one more news story. Any questions about it or anything in the market here? Any questions about buying, selling a house? Let me know. All right. Now, this is something that has been a hot topic issue here. St. Augustine leaders move closer to make updates to city's noise ordinance. So this is this is probably a picture of the Sing Out Loud Fest. No. Either way, this is a music festival. I'm not sure which one it is. We got tons in the city here. The St. Augustine City Commission is in the process of making potential updates to the city's noise ordinance. And the current noise ordinance sets a maximum noise decibel level, which varies by time of day. Noise must be reduced after 10 p.m. on weeknights and after 11 p.m. on weekends. So this has sparked like a huge controversy on the Facebook world of St. Augustine. I'm personally like, once again, the city leadership could not do a worse job. And actually, I don't normally take that hot of a take. You know, probably shouldn't do that. But I do think like when they're talking about the noise ordinance downtown, when we're talking about shortening night of lights, we're just completely tone deaf to like, hey, what are the effects to the businesses and the people that work at these businesses, which the hospitality industry is the main employer here in St. Johns County. What are the ramifications of shortening night of lights, which one guy, he put a study out, says like $130 million to the local economy. And then what's the ramifications of putting that noise ordinance? Like, so on the Facebook group, you know, everyone chimes in And what the best comment, I should probably do that. I should probably pull up these and do like the best comment, like from what I read on these groups. But he's like, you know what? Noise ordinance, let's just close everything at 6 p.m. It'll be like an old Western town and just leave it. 6 p.m., forget all the businesses downtown. We don't want any tourism. We'll just cut it at 6 p.m., just call it a day. And that's kind of like, it. Obviously he's making a joke and being extreme with it, but it's like our downtown is already pretty quiet, right? There's only a handful of places that you can go that offer live music or any type of bar nightlife scene past 10 o'clock, right? It's really not that kind of town. Now, do we have music festivals and things that happen that keep, bring an influx of people downtown to go drink and go have fun and listen to music and all that kind of stuff? 100%. That is part of the town. Does that lead to some things, right? Where one of the business owners complained that like, oh, hey, someone broke my window the last year and dented up my fence, all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, well, I am totally sympathetic. No one should be doing that. But you're in a downtown area where people are, at that time of night, people go out and drink. And that's not anything new, right? It's not something that's only here in St. Augustine. That's all over the country, has been that way for a long time. So like having a downtown area where people don't drink or don't do anything, like what's the draw to downtown outside of the history and the food? After 10 o'clock, you just want it to be done. I think it's a silly move, just like shortening Night of Lights, I think is a silly move. So it's just, for me, this is not, I don't think this is good for the growth of the city. But what do you guys think? We got Derek. What are your political beliefs? I consider myself center, independent, probably libertarian. But I try also not to get involved with any of this stuff because at the end of the day, I was just talking to a client who called me from Boston today. All the political stuff, they differ very slightly just on hot topic issues that we're going to argue for, the last 30 years, we'll argue for the next 30. So kind of in the middle on most things. Still agree with you no matter what, by the way. Awesome. Appreciate you, Derek. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm I guess more pro business and pro what's best for people here. And those moves aren't best for what's people here. Most of the locals here that at least, and maybe I'm specific to my generation, right? Like a lot of my friends work in the service industry. Like, yeah, do they bitch about going to work where it's like traffic all the time and they just get beat up all day long? 100%, right? Who doesn't bitch about work once in a while? But at the end of the day, they know they're going to go downtown. They're going to make $200, $300, $400 in a night and going to be able to, pocket that money. So to shorten that up, especially in today's world where like affordability for housing, cost of living, just for like food and gas, groceries, all that is higher than it's ever been. Why are we doing this to these people, right? Makes no sense. But Derek, appreciate you. Really appreciate you chiming in. And you're on the Facebook, which I love. Trying to get that Facebook group moving a little bit better. But so yeah, if you guys want to join Living in St. Augustine Facebook group, I post a whole bunch of good stuff to it. But that's it. All right, guys. Well, awesome. Appreciate you. We got 12, 13 people here. That's amazing. If you guys have any other questions, I'll leave it here for a second. But that's all I got for this week. We'll be on next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Going over the market stats, news you know about, everything about buying, selling, or investing here in Northeastern Florida. And we'll do a Q&A. So just like all these people did, we got John, we got Derek, we got Kevin. They're obviously really smart people if they comment on my YouTube. So like to engage. Appreciate you guys for doing that. Really do. It really helps me out in the algorithm. So yeah, let's see. We got any questions? We're going to leave it for a second more. Oh, we got Derek back in here. Let's go. Derek LeMay, I'm in Florida, man. But I used to live in Austin, Texas. I hear Austin's a really good place. I have a buddy out there. He runs a YouTube channel, Jeremy Knight, and he tells me that Austin's pretty sweet. And I see all my realtors do like really high end. Like all my realtor friends are really high end marketers, right? So they do a very good job at showcasing their properties, and like some of the springs and stuff around Austin just look beautiful. Like just south of the city. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but he did also say that Austin's been getting weirder and weirder. And like, that's like a thing, I guess, keep Austin weird, but he's like, it's almost too much. But I think he's originally from California, but he moved there years and years ago. So he's not one of the new California transplants to Austin. We got Joan here. Joan, what's up? What is the percentage of retired people in St. Augustine? I am not sure offhand. If I were to take a stab at it, I'm sure I could look it up on the U.S. Census Bureau real quick. St. Johns County population, demographics. If I were to take a stab at it, I'm probably going to say somewhere around like 25%. And I mean, I could probably just base it off of like age. Let's see. Yep, person 65. Here, I'll pull up the census here. So person 65 years and over, 21.4%. So pretty close to that. I guess that would be really interesting to see year over year. I wonder if I can find that out. Yeah, I'll have to check to see if I can see like year over year if it's growing. My expectation is that it would be growing, like it was not always 20%, 21%. I imagine it's going to continue to go up. A lot of people are choosing retire here. But then again, Joan, I covered last week or no, 2 weeks ago, where it was like looking at the remote work population here in St. Johns County, and we're behind like major metropolitan areas. Like we're like, I think they said like Atlanta's a big work from home hub, DC, and there were like 3 other ones. I can't remember, but we were like number 5 on the list, and we're obviously a very, very small city. And the people that were working from home in St. Johns County prior to 2019 was 8%. Now it's 25%. So pretty huge increase, which means that demographic of people that are working from home, I'm just going to generalize. I don't know the exact statistic on it, but most of them are probably younger, right? Because they're just more tech abled. And I'm not going to imagine that they're going to be, entering retirement age, working from home. Are there people that do that? 100%. I'm not saying there's not, but just more than likely a younger person. So we got Derek. Don't stop, brother. Appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. You guys are awesome here today. I really appreciate it. We got Scott. Sorry I missed you a couple weeks ago when I was in town on the Sunday cleanup, but I'll reach out next time I'm in town. Awesome, Scott. Yeah, appreciate that. So Scott is referring to every Sunday I clean up trash here in West Augustine. We meet over at Maracuya, which is a great little coffee shop. The owners there agreed to give us 10% off once we're done cleaning up. So every Sunday, 10 a.m., I pick up trash. You guys are more than welcome to join. If you want to join, I don't really advertise it all besides on like my Instagram, but I want to do a better job at it, get a good group of people going. But yeah. Scott, you know what? I'm thinking you might have emailed me. I had a baby that weekend, so I think it worked out pretty good either way. I don't think I picked up trash that weekend. So I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, you sent me an email on it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I had a baby that weekend, and I may or may not have gotten back to you. My life was just like a whirlwind at that point. So either way, next time, let me know. I'm out there pretty much every Sunday, unless it rains. Joan, I hope I answered your question. Appreciate your comment and being here tonight. We got Derek back. Yes, sir. That's my buddy, and Austin's getting crazy. Oh, you know Jeremy? That's cool. How do you know Jeremy? That's awesome. He's my YouTube buddy. Me and him, we nerd out on that kind of stuff. Awesome, Joan. Appreciate you. Appreciate you guys being here. We got a ton of people here. Kevin, John, Derek, Joan, Scott. Appreciate all of you guys here tonight. Here every Wednesday at 8 p.m., going over the market stats, the news you know about, thing about buying, selling, or investing here in Northeastern Florida. And we're doing a Q&A like we just did here. So if you have any questions about your specific neighborhood, I can give you a quote on your house, what I think it might sell for live here. That actually might be pretty interesting. Maybe I should do that. Like live seller consultations. I think that'd be kind of interesting. I don't know. I'd have to find an audience for it, of course. But either way, guys, appreciate you being here. See you next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Have a good night.